Welcome to Women in Leadership, the Power Within. This is a platform where we converse about the experiences, the strategies, the principles that define some of the most influential women leaders in Africa. I'm your host, Julia Ombasi. Now today we have a guest. She is a strategist who has a way of bridging the gap between complex research and national policy. I'm talking about Dr. Rose Oronje. She is the Deputy Executive Director of the African Institute of Development Policy, that is AFIDEP. Welcome, Rose.
Thank you for having me.
It's a delight to have you.
Thank you.
Now, just thinking about the research and you bridging the gap, I'm wondering, what does leadership mean to you when you think about that?
Well, we do research to solve problems. And so leadership in research means that we are defining research that actually solves and changes the lives of Africans. And when you think about that, it means that the way I design my research, I go back to what is the problem in society and what are the priorities of government, so that my research is actually aligned to providing solutions to those problems and those government priorities.
So you are in between the government and the people and the community?
Yes, for the research to actually make a difference in people's lives. Because there is research that can be done in laboratories and we publish good papers, but I personally don't do that kind of research. I want to do research that solves problems in society, and it means working together with governments, but importantly, understanding what are the challenges communities are facing and what role can research play in that. That is leadership in research.
And how, I'm just wondering, how do you get into a room and get people to buy into what you're talking and use your evidence to make decisions? How do you do that?
So when I think about the work that I do, me as a researcher and government as implementing solutions to societal problems, we're trying to do the same thing. We're improving people's lives. And so when I walk into a room and I'm working with government officials, it's about what is the problem we both are trying to solve. And so what kind of research or information do you need as government to actually solve that problem? Now, when I approach it that way, they actually see the value that I bring on board as a researcher to help them in solving the problems of society. So it's not me doing them a favor, it's actually me, as the two of us complementing each other.
Adding value to what they are and showing them what is in it for them.
What is in it for them? Absolutely. Because for people to listen to you, they always have to, what are you bringing on the table? As you know, government people are very busy, right? And so they want to see, what are you bringing to actually enable us achieve our manifesto, for instance? Political leaders are always thinking about their manifesto, the priorities within those manifestos. And so what I try to do is to ensure that my research speaks to those priorities, you know, because the priorities they have are critical for development.
Absolutely.
But they can only be achieved if you have the right research, the right information, the right data, the right evidence. Yeah.
And if they accept it, which is good.
Right, and if they accept it, which means that even me as I define my research, I am asking them, what do you really need? What are your priorities? What are you lacking?
So you're not giving them what you need, you're giving them what they need.
What they need, yeah. Because as a researcher, I can do anything and publish great papers, but whose life does that change? So until I work hand in hand with governments to ensure that I'm responding to the questions they're asking, their needs, then we work together as two people who can actually solve societal problems. If they work alone and I work alone, then we end up just, you know, us having wonderful papers,
absolutely,
published in great journals,
absolutely,
and then doing policies that don't change anybody's life. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. I'm coming back to you as a woman, you know. What are some of the challenges or some of the challenges or the opportunities that you see even as a lady? Because there's a way in which women come out and men come out, and there must be some of those that you find.
Yeah. So, you know, African societies, and maybe it's the world over, they're very patriarchal.
Yes.
You know, and so in people's minds, they have a place for the woman. So for me, I don't look at that as a challenge. I actually look at that as an opportunity. You know, opportunity to challenge that status quo, but also opportunity to demonstrate that women bring value in solving big societal problems. And so I take that as an opportunity to ensure that I'm diligent in the work that I do, but I also, whatever I do it so well. So that there's no question of this is a woman. It's really my work that is speaking for itself, as opposed to them saying this is a woman. They actually leave that out and look at the difference, the value, you know, that my work is bringing to what they're doing.
So you work at being excellent.
Excellence actually defines me. It's probably one of my weaknesses.
Oh,
Some
wow.
people have said to me, colleagues especially, they've said things like Rose is a perfectionist. And initially I would deny it, but I've come to own it.
Because you wanted to be modest,
I wanted to be modest.
Yeah.
But I've come to own it because what I tell myself is, if I'm not going to do something so well,
then I better not do it.
And for me, that's my mantra. If I'm going to clean my house, I'm going to clean it so well.
Absolutely.
That leave no dust nowhere. So if I'm going to do my research and engage governments with it, I'm going to put in my best. And so excellence, diligence, getting it done. For me, that's what drives me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, Rose, you are a communications guru.
Right, yeah.
And so you've gone to the PhD, learning about communication and communicating with people well.
Yeah.
There's this grapevine. There are times when in an organization, there's grapevine. People are talking, there are rumors. How do you, as a leader, ensure that you starve the grapevine? Yeah.
So I've worked in different organizations, which means that I've had lots of different experiences. But as a communications expert, what I really focus on is transparency and honesty, so that I'm not providing space for there to be rumors. Because when people know something is happening and they don't have much information, they fill that void with rumors.
Yeah.
I actually over-communicate.
Oh, that's nice.
Sometimes colleagues have told me, like, when you work with Rose, be ready to hear her over-communicating, because sometimes I'll say things and say them over and over again, because I just want to be sure that we're on the same page, and that I'm not leaving space for doubt, for questions, just ensuring that people understand what I would like to have done. But also, more importantly, is just being open, right? That communication is not always from me going down. It's also from down. And so having an open space where I encourage staff to come forward and share information. But that is not just telling people come and share information, it's relations. The way I relate with different staff. That gives them the easiness for someone to, barge into my office and say, there's this going on.
Without waiting
for it to come from somewhere else. So I really also build good relations. When I'm in an institution, I don't care who you are, whether you are the cleaner, whatever you are, I just build relations, we laugh, we chat with staff. And so it means anyone can walk into my space, my office, and just share information. Yeah.
You touched on honesty.
Yeah.
Say something else about that honesty, because when you tell people something and they're doubting, then the rumors will still go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of sometimes just tell things the way they are. When you're a leader, sometimes people want you to sugarcoat things. But I'm kind of the black and white person. So I will tell things the way they are. And actually, I know once a colleague has told me that, Rose, you can't be a politician because you're too honest. And so if something is broken, or we are struggling with, say, work, or I do a lot of proposals, I write research papers, and maybe I'm writing a paper and I'm giving feedback, because often I write those papers in teams.
Yeah.
I give feedback in black and white, so that
somebody
you
knows.
Understand and you know what to do. And so I am sometimes seem to be too honest. And one of the things I've been trying to learn to do as I, grow into senior levels of leadership is maybe to be able to share less, in that honesty. Don't share everything, because then sometimes it impacts people differently. So that is something I'm learning as a leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then there has to be some boundaries of some level.
Right, yeah.
Because you can overshare at a certain level that you shouldn't.
Yes, that you shouldn't, which is very important, just to be clear, because it does impact people. Yeah. Yeah.
I think of you more as a shuttle diplomat between the politicians and the researchers.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how you manage to convince a high-ranking politician to buy into your evidence in order to make decisions.
Right. So actually, that is the part I enjoy best in my work as a researcher, because I'm not your typical researcher. As you said, I'm a communications expert who's gotten into research, And so for me, it's not about me doing the research and then taking it to the policymaker or having the evidence and taking it. It's actually us defining the research questions to be answered together with the policymaker, so that the research question is actually speaking to what the policymaker needs. Now, when I do that, and that has been something I've been promoting a lot within the research space, so that we don't have researchers defining questions on their own, publishing papers, and then taking evidence to the policymaker. You know, because the question I used to ask when I was much younger in the career was, when you bring for me a research report, so what? You've done your own research,
Absolutely.
you found something, and then you bring to me as the policymaker, so what? So the way I design my research is like that I start with the policymaker. What are the priorities? What are the questions? And then there's ownership.
Oh, wow.
There's co-creation. There's co-production. By the time the report is coming up, it's owned by the two of us. It's no longer a researcher's report. It's a report that is owned by government as well as the researchers. And so uptake of that research is almost natural because there's ownership. So they see where it fits and they take it forward into their programs, into their policies, into their services.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. As you go along, there must be those principles of leadership.
Yeah.
Those rules that you use in your leadership.
Yeah.
What are some of those rules that you'd say?
Yeah. So I have to say that some of the rules that I've used are not your typical rules because I am number 5 to my mother. We have many kids. So I didn't like leadership at all.
Yeah.
Even in primary school, I remember in class 3, I was made a prefect and I said no. I literally asked my mother to go and tell them I can't be a prefect. So I don't like leadership. So I've kind of come into leadership almost naturally through the work that I do, the things that I do. And some of those principles for me that have propelled me into leadership without me seeking leadership is, some of them are get things done. I'm kind of the person who is focused on getting things done. I don't procrastinate. Even in my own personal life, even in work, when we decide we want to get things done, we have a grant, we have a proposal we need to write, I set timelines and I get them done. For me, that's a principle that really helps me move because I don't like to talk about something over and over again. I will do, and you have timelines. So getting things done is critical. The second one is diligence, really. Like do it so well that when you're doing a proposal, you're writing a research paper, you're giving it your very best. I'm not writing it because an editor will come and edit. I'm writing it because when I submit, it's ready for publishing.
Absolutely.
You know? The other principle is really appreciating the fact that I don't know everything. Even as a leader, I don't know everything.
That's a good one.
You know? And so being very clear and honest with myself that I don't know everything. And so ready to learn from others, but also ready to listen to the Almighty God to give me the wisdom. Because sometimes there's such issues and problems that you're like, even as a leader, I don't know the answers. And so you go down on my knees and pray, like, God, show me your light on this issue. Yeah. Those are some of my principles. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. But you have a busy life, you know, and I love those principles because diligence is what we want, you know. But you have a busy life, Rose.
Yeah.
You travel a lot. Your work involves so much thinking, so much doing, you know. How do you exercise life balance?
That's something I've actually struggled with for many years. I can't say I'm there yet, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Much of what I've done is really focus on spiritual growth over the last maybe 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Spiritual growth because I came to realize and accept that man is a spirit. And so Rose is here, the body is here, but I am a spirit. And so I can only be better and understand myself if I focus on my spiritual growth.
We'll shortly be going on a break, but I'm thinking of some of the teachers you had, some of your classmates. Is there anyone who inspired you so much, you know, to become who you are? Are there people you watched and you are like, oh, I wish I could be like them?
Well, I did have lots of teachers who were role models, but one of them was our English teacher in high school, Miss Makotsi. She was very firm. We actually were all very scared of her. You know, but the more we understood her, the more I understood her, the more I realized that she is actually firm for my own good. She's the lady who, she wouldn't even smile in class. Oh, wow. And you'd be like, she's still serious. But really, when I look back, she just set the model for me. Like you have this young woman, of course she was young then, you have this young woman taking English for, I think, all the levels, from 1 to from 4. And she's just so
she
strict.
taught in every...
Yes, she's just so strict, so firm, and so good in what she did. So for me, that was a role model. I just look at her, I'm like, I want to be like this lady. Yeah. And of course, in my family just doing the things that my dad wasn't able to achieve. I kind of felt like he could have achieved a lot if he had had an opportunity to reach the levels of education I did. And sometimes feeling like I'm doing this because dad didn't get a chance to do it. I need to do it so well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that you talk about your dad, we've talked about the doctor, we've talked about the director, we want to hear about the daughter, you know?
Yeah.
And if there are any values,
Yeah.
you know, that have inspired you to be, because you talked a bit about your dad.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about your dad and your family
Yeah.
to see, is there an inspiration you got from your family
Yeah.
that helped you, you know, to get to where you are?
A lot. So my father was very gentle. He's late now,
Yes.
blessed memory. But he was very gentle and very reserved, but full of humor. He didn't even laugh at his own jokes.
Oh, wow.
And a deep thinker. You know, sometimes you'll just be seated and he's not saying anything. And then when he comes up to speak, you're like, oh, so that's what dad has been thinking about. You're like, you thought he was just sitting there doing nothing, but he's really like thinking about things. And so what I learned from my dad is being reflective, because as a reserved person, he didn't say a lot. Yeah. But then when he said what he had to say, you could see that he's really been thinking about
It's well
this.
thought.
You know, it's really well thought out. My dad was very clever, but he had to drop out of school, Maseno School.
Oh.
He was among some of the very
was a good school.
first Africans in Maseno School. And he did one term and dropped out because my grandfather wouldn't pay school fees.
Oh.
And so being like had been top in the schools where he had come from in the village, and being in Maseno School, the only one admitted from his village, and then he drops out, was like a big, I would say, blow for him,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so he obviously would see himself as someone who would have gone very far. And so for me, going very far, sometimes I'd feel like I have all the brains my dad had, I have the opportunity, he's there to pay school fees, you know, and so I strived to reach the highest. Because part of it was like, I'm getting to where my dad was not able to
Would
get
have
to.
been.
Would have been, you know. So that really deep thinking and just thinking that I have to do something to ensure that I achieve what my dad did achieve was important, learning from him. But of course, my mother is like the other side. I get my bubbliness from my mother. My mother talks a lot and she's so bubbly. What I've learned from her is courage. My mother has courage, because the highest level of education she went was class 6. That's many years ago. She didn't go beyond that. But she has this courage and just the urge of being a leader, that her education doesn't matter. You know, and so sometimes even in family meetings, and I mean extended family meetings, you know, where my uncles are there, my dad is there, my mom stands and talks and speaks her mind.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't matter that she's a woman, it doesn't matter that she's not as educated as my uncles.
And
she has this
traditionally,
courage.
that's not quite acceptable.
It's not acceptable, you know? And so I've learned courage from her. Sometimes when I'm thinking about maybe I'm going to be presenting in these big meetings or meeting top government leaders, my mother is the image I have in me. I'm like, what would my mother do? She would embrace that space. Regardless of who is there, she would embrace it.
And talk.
And talk, and you just give you her views. You know, and so she is very courageous. She has the urge to lead, you know, and of course, she has wisdom. Sometimes I listen to her, I'm like, where would my mother be had she gotten to high school, to university? I've asked myself that so many times. Even sometimes I've asked her, I'm like, how do you know all these things? It just means she's so critical in the way she looks at things. Yeah. Even for someone with primary level education, she's just so critical. And for me, that has helped me to think about, sometimes you don't need all these degrees that I have to make key decisions. Yes, I've learned courage and just having wisdom, societal wisdom, you know, about life, about decisions you make, from my mother a lot.
Oh, wow. Now, what was it like, your mother being up country, your father being in the town or in the city?
Sometimes I think like I had the best childhood, you know, because my mother lived in Butere, and my dad worked with Kenya Railways all his life. Most of my childhood, he was in Mombasa, you know, in a big Kenya Railways house. And so school holidays I would spend in Mombasa. We would take the train from Butere, sleep in Nairobi,
Oh, I
come the
remember
whole day,
those
sleep in
trains.
Nairobi, then the following day go to Mombasa and spend our 4 weeks there or Christmas holidays there. Now, those were like two different worlds. You know, because we're living in a rural area, in your typical rural house, you know, there's no power, there's no water. And then you spend holidays in Mombasa in a nice house, has upstairs, has electricity, has running water. Sometimes we would shower like 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Of course, Mombasa is hot.
Yeah, but you want the hot water from the
It
shower.
was just, you know, enjoying that service and knowing that you're gonna go to the village in a few weeks and you won't have a shower, so you have to go and draw water from the river, you know. And so that shaped me a lot. It's like I had both worlds, you know, knowing what is really good and also knowing that you can actually be in a house where there's no electricity. And there's a joke that my dad would make whenever he visited. My dad was hilarious. So he would be in a rural area house and he's like, starts pressing the wall. It's like, oh, this wall has no electricity. And he'd be like, Dad. And so for me, that just put in me this vision, these ideas of I want to really live a very good life. And that meant
The Mombasa life.
The Mombasa life, you know, where I have good showers, hot water, you know, nice house. And it made me work so hard.
Okay.
Even in primary school, I would be dreaming of me driving my own car. I
Oh,
would be
wow.
thinking about before I have a baby, I would be driving my own car. So that I'm driving my car with my baby at the back, taking them to the clinic.
Wow.
I had those dreams, literally in primary school, in the village. There was no car in that village then, but I had those dreams in my head.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, grief also knocks on the doors of
Yeah.
leaders.
Yeah.
We want to talk about grief in your life.
Right.
Viewers, we are taking a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the grief in our guest's life. Thank you. Welcome back to Women in Leadership, The Power Within. Today we are recording from the Novotel, Nairobi, a place that clearly mirrors the excellence of the women that we are featuring. So if you're looking for accommodation or conferencing, this is the place to be. Now back to our questions. Rose, you've gone through some losses in your family.
Yes.
Quite a number of losses.
Yeah.
And I want you to speak about them and also just say, how do you navigate losses as a leader?
Yeah.
You know?
It's a strange because those losses actually coincided with the period when I was going through a lot of leadership growth, you know, as a person.
Yeah.
So in my career life, I was going through a lot of leadership growth. And then on the personal life, I was experiencing a lot of losses. I lost my brother in 2009. And at that point, I was policy and communications manager at one of the leading research institutions. So I had 6 years there with a lot of tremendous growth in that role. And then my brother just gets killed, you know, and this brother was important to me because he had been my role model, you know, of course, much older than me. So he was almost like father to me. But he had actually supported my dad in clearing my university fees from second year to fifth year because my dad had just retired. But also he's someone who had achieved, you know, he was an engineer. So he had, you know, gone to college, gotten a career. So he had a good career, settled, had a family. So now look at the guys who were ahead of me in our family, a big family. He was one of those role models, someone I looked up to. Like I want to be like him. And so he just gets killed. And I learned about it 3 days later when he's been lying in the morgue. Now that was a big one. Because one, my role model in the family is gone.
Yeah.
But two, like how sudden is that? Like people show up and tell you your brother is dead and you realize he's been dead 3 days. Now, about 3.5 years later, my sister, one of my older sisters also dies. So she was sick for about 3.5 months. I think when she started falling sick, we didn't realize there was death on the cards, if I may call it, because she would just say she has tummy issues. And then she was in hospital in and out, maybe about 3 to 4 times. And then the 4th time she went, she came out looking really sick, like she was actually dying. And so in 2013, mid-2013, my sister dies.
Oh.
And my sister dies, and I'm in the UK, graduating with my PhD.
Oh.
And so I traveled to the UK like today. My PhD is in 4 days. And then the following day, I arrive in the UK today. The following day, I get the message my sister has died. And so I'm like, okay, so do I travel back? Of course, I'm here celebrating my PhD, but then my sister is dead back in Kenya. That was difficult. You know, I remember speaking with my dad on the phone and saying, shall I take the next flight back? And dad is like, well, to do what? I'm like, to come and bury my sister. It's like, she's dead. Just graduate, get your degree, and come back. We'll put her in the morgue. My dad was as practical as that many times. But this sister was special to me because I wasn't very spiritual then. So she's the one, like if I had challenges, I would literally call her and say, Agi, please pray for me. I didn't know how to pray for myself. So I'd be like, Agi, please pray for me. I'm going through this. She was also a medical practitioner. So she had had nursing training. She didn't finish her nursing diploma, but she had had nursing training. So also I would ask her things about, I'm feeling like this. What do you think I should do health-wise? And then another 3.5 years later, my other sister who follows this one dies. And so I'm like, that is 2017 now. This sister goes in for a minor operation, but then the doctor doesn't manage. She had some challenges with high blood pressure. She was hypertensive. So the doctor doesn't manage her blood pressure very well. So she comes out of this minor operation, and the following day she dies. Because there were blood clots, you know, they call it what, something, pulmonary embolism or something like that. So she had clots because her blood wasn't managed well. And so she has an operation today. We speak in the evening. She's upbeat. She's like, oh, I don't even know if I was cut. She was laughing. She's like, I don't know if I was cut. I'm just feeling okay. And then the following day around noon, the hospital calls me to say, rush to the hospital. Your sister is being rushed to, I don't know, HDU or something. I'm like, what? And so I get to the hospital, and in 3 hours, my sister is dead. History, she's gone. Now those were big. At the same time, I'm growing in my career, like I said.
Absolutely.
The other one died, I was graduating my PhD. This one dies, I've just become a director. I think a year earlier I had become a director. And I'm like...
So you never know when to celebrate
absolutely.
or to mourn.
So I'm sitting there asking God, like, what is this? Why am I doing so well on the career front? And then on the personal front, I'm losing everyone who is so important to me.
I know.
I did go through a lot of depression. I remember I would go to work after my second sister died. And I get back home, I get into my bedroom, it's dark, there is a bed, there's a chair, but I sit on the floor. I don't put on the lights, I literally sit on the floor and cry. And sometimes I would sit on the floor and cry for hours. By the time I walk out of the bedroom, it's like 9 p.m. And I got home around 6:30. Because I'm just sitting there crying like, what is this? Like, God, what is this? Now, what that helped me with is that I found me. Because I knew God as a child, and actually I got born again in high school, in Form 1, but I wasn't a serious Christian. So yes, I knew God, I would pray, but as I said, I would even call my sister to pray for me, you know. But when I went through all this grief, I was asking God a lot of questions, and I found God. And because I found God, I found me. To understand that I'm a spirit being, and there's more that goes on in the spiritual world that I need to understand me, and to understand all that is going on in my family. And that death is also part of the process. My dad kept reminding me that nobody lives forever, so death is part of the process. So that grief helped me find God, because then I realized that there's the bigger picture, the bigger scheme of things.
Now, when you talked about you are in the UK graduating, what that means is that you left your son. You have a son.
Yes.
How was that? Because you see, as you develop, as you grow, as you learn, there are certain sacrifices. How was that sacrifice like, having to leave your son?
So, actually got my son in 2006. At that point, I was doing the master's degree at the University of Nairobi. I had started the master's in 2005, and so 6 was really to do the research. But then there was pregnancy and there was a child. I was married then, I have to say. I'm no longer married. And so I got my son when I was deep in my master's research. And so I would be sitting on my computer at home with my son here on the breast and me typing away. Because, like I said, I like to get things done. I would have put the degree aside and said, okay, I'll take care of the baby and maybe 2 years later resume the degree. But I said no. I was like, with or without the degree, without the son, I'm going on with the degree. And so I literally did my PhD with my son on my master's degree with my son on my laps, which was interesting because I'd never had a baby before. So I used to think you can just put him down and you do your work. Then I realized sometimes you can't put them down. He was a boy. He wouldn't stop breastfeeding. Yes. And so I was like, okay, if this is going to happen, I'm going to actually get this master's degree, I have to learn to have him here as I type on my desktop.
So that is part of your life?
That was part of my life. I literally would do that because I would put him down and he starts crying, but I have to write my research paper, you know. That was the master's degree in 2007. And then the PhD, I get a scholarship in 2009, you know, from the Commonwealth Commission. And so I need to take on the degree, the scholarship, I need to take it on as early as 2009 or 2010. So I take it up in 2010. Guess what? My son is 3.5 years.
Oh.
Right. And so I had to leave my son behind because I thought, I mean, there were two options. I'd actually delayed taking on the scholarship because I would have taken it on in September 2009, but I took it on in January 2010. That is part of the reason I was delaying. I wanted to be clear, like, is it the PhD or is it the baby, you know? But also, it's the time when my brother had just died. My brother had died in July of 2009. And it was also the family starting to adjust without him, you know? Yeah. And so I decided to take some 4 months to think through, am I going to go through with the scholarship? Yeah. Am I going to go to the UK? Yeah. What happens to my family? What happens to my son? So eventually I made the decision to go. And when I made the decision, I didn't realize it was so hard until I got on that flight. And they bought me a one-way ticket.
Oh, wow.
So my sponsors buy me, yes, my sponsors buy me a one-way ticket to the UK. My sister, I've never cried more. I sat on that flight. It was going through Dubai, Emirates, and I literally cried through the, I don't know. I just know we had landed and people were walking off the flight. I had a few hours layover in Dubai and then to the UK. Yeah. The Dubai UK flight, I didn't cry, but the Nairobi Dubai flight, I cried all through. Oh. Thankfully, I was sitting to some nice person who didn't care. They didn't even ask, why are you crying? Because I didn't know what I would tell them. But I was literally crying, you know, because I was thinking, okay, so here I am going to the UK. I don't know when I'm coming back. And my son is in Nairobi, and he's 3.5 years old. Oh. That was difficult. It was the most difficult decision I had to make. Oh, wow. But of course, God works in ways that He only, you know, because once I go there, I got some work in the university. I would do some work in the library. I would also do some research assistant work. So I had money. So every 3 to 4 months, I came to Nairobi. I would come to Nairobi to see my son, you know. Sometimes I came because he was unwell. He had serious asthma those years. Often he was in hospital. But sometimes I would just come because I can't go on anymore. I just need to hold my baby, you know. So it was difficult, but God saw me through.
Wow. Let me go back a little bit to your sister.
Yeah.
So you never came for your sister's burial, or did you come?
I did.
You did.
I was only in the UK for my graduation when my sister died. So I was going to be there for a week. Okay. I had gone 4 days
so
early.
They waited for you.
So they waited for me. So as my dad had said, we'll put her in the morgue and then you'll come back, you know, because you're not coming to revive her. He said that to me on the phone. He literally like, you're not coming to revive her. So you stay there, graduate. Actually, I wasn't graduating. I was doing my Viva, the PhD exam, because I was graduating then in January of 2014. But in June of 2013, when I was there, when my sister died, I was there for my PhD examination. And so that was difficult.
It must have been.
That was very difficult. And I remember preparing for the PhD exam, but also just crying a lot. But like I said earlier, life is spiritual, because the day before the actual exam, I dream about my sister, the dead sister. She's in Kenya in the morgue. I am in the UK in Brighton, and I dream about her. And in that dream, it's a very interesting dream. We are young, we're in my mother's kitchen in Western Kenya, we are cooking. And we're just talking and laughing, because we'd crack a lot of jokes. I grew up with those two ladies, the older one and the younger. So we grew up together, the three of us. So we'd just like chat. You know, of course you're cooking in the kitchen with firewood. So it takes forever to cook. So you have a lot of time to talk. So that was the dream. So it's like the whole night, those are how I slept. I was just chatting with my sister. We are cooking, we are happy. So I wake up and I wake up with a smile. Oh. It was the first time for those 4 days I was in the UK, I was waking up with a smile. Because since she had died, I was waking up and I start crying.
You start crying?
I would wake up and I start crying. So this day I wake up and I smile. I'm like, what?
We're playing with her.
And wow. I believe that she was there to wish me well for my Viva.
Okay.
So I actually go for my Viva, and you know the Vivas in the UK can take the whole day. And I'm there with my examiners, and we are talking about my PhD chapters and all that. But there's this courage, there's this presence in me that I don't even think they could tell that I have a dead sister in the morgue.
You know?
I don't think they could tell. You know? And I had asked my my supervisors not to tell them. I informed my supervisors, but I told them not to tell the examiners because they can reschedule my PhD exam. And I had already waited for it for like 3 months. So I was like, my sister is dead, but I'm sticking here to do the exam because I can't reschedule it. Don't say anything to my examiners because I don't want them to think, oh, let her go home, let's reschedule. And so I'm just there, you know, chatting, explaining my research. And it was like a very good PhD exam experience. And I passed with real minor revisions. Like I submitted the paper, the PhD paper, within less than a month of doing it because the revisions were so minor.
So you did well in it. Wow. Now, let's go back to your son. In 2020, your son had a high school project.
Yes.
And that project, he decided that he wanted, it was during COVID-19, remember?
Yes.
And he wanted to feed some people in Korogosho. Yeah. I'm asking about that project, but I'm asking, and I'm happy we talked about, you are bold enough to talk about what influence have you given. So when you look at what your son did, because honestly, that was such a good thing. Yeah. Now, do you see your contribution to how your son could think that his project could be to take care of the needy?
Right. So in 2020, my son was 13. He was going to turn 14 later that year. And the school gave them some themes for projects. They wanted them to do some projects, you know, so they gave them different themes. And so he says, oh, Mom, we have this project and I've decided to do a passion project. So for me, I'm like, passion project? Like, what's that? I'm thinking about passion fruits.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I want to do a passion project about helping, you know, needy people in society. And I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do to help them? He's like, or because it's a short period, I'm thinking about raising funds, my own funds and from friends, and of course my parents, and then buying, you know, engaging with people in poor neighborhoods, finding out what they want and buying things using those funds to support them. So that was interesting because I was just like, okay, so you have a school project, you've decided to do a passion project, which means there were other themes. I didn't actually ask about other themes, but there were other themes, and he decided to do the passion project, where he raised funds from his friends. Of course, he got me into it. I also raised funds from some friends. We put in our own funds, me and his father, and engaged a community group, you know, to find out the needs and what we can bring that would be valuable to them. And so we bought food stuff, you know, and he took it to the community. Of course, I supported him. But it was interesting because I mean, my son has a very strong spiritual connection. Actually stronger than me. He's always had that. And I keep thanking God for it. So he's sometimes I think he knows God more than I do. Because sometimes when I'm not very good to him, let's say I'm getting angry, he's like, oh, Mom, anger is not one of God's, the fruits of the Holy Spirit. So I'm like, oh, you mean, you know, the fruits of the Holy Spirit? He would make comments like that, you know. And so him thinking about helping others, my contribution to that, I would say, is really the fact that he's grown up appreciating his place in God's big picture of things, and that he has a role to play. And sometimes often I've said to him things like, it's not always about you. Yeah. You know, because growing up as an only child between me and his father, he's quite privileged. Yeah. So he gets everything he wants. And sometimes he said things to me like, oh, when I'm a big person, I want to have multiple multiple sources of income, but also multiple designer cars.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, why would you want to have multiple designer cars? They're going to cost you a lot of money. It's like, oh, but I would have the money. And I'm like, it's not always about you. When you have a lot of money, think about other people.
Yeah.
support other people. Like we live in a context where even within the family, within, the communities, you can see there is need. So when you have a lot of money, think about helping
Other
others.
people,
That is a
yeah.
conversation we'll have over time. Because as boys, they look at this, sometimes they watch a lot of videos, they see designer cars, and it's just thinking about, I want to spend all my money on designer cars. I want to go to destinations, and sometimes would say, like, I want to live in Europe, in some seaside city. And I'm like, that would be very costly. If you have money like that, influence society.
Exactly.
It's not always about you.
Exactly.
Nothing exists for itself. We all exist to influence, to impact, to support others. So that is something I've been reminding him over the years, and I think it contributed to his passion project. Yeah.
Okay. And I believe that because most people, modeling is what changes people. Yeah. It's not only what you tell people, more of what you model. Absolutely. So I believe that is what you modeled. But now talking about that, it brings me back to your organization. At some point, I think it was 2023, AFIDEP got the UN Population Award.
Yes.
What do you think was your contribution to that award?
Right. So that award was actually very prestigious for a very young organization like AFIDEP, because it was recognizing the role that AFIDEP played in using evidence to support African governments to put in place policies that enable them to harness the large youthful population, what they call the demographic dividend. Now, my role in that is that I am the evidence person at that institution, And so we have researchers, we have people in policy. For me, it's always about the so what, the communication, the media person in me, because my first degree was communication many years ago in Moi University. So it had a media journalism component, it had a publishing component, it had IT, and it had, I think there was also information and library. And so it's the so what, so the evidence. So AFIDEP then uses that, because that has shaped what AFIDEP does. The whole, we don't do research for research's sake. We do research to change lives. Now, for it to change lives, it has to be hand in hand with governments. So actually the research that led to that, the changes in government, in policies, in programs that led to that award, that research was produced hand in hand with governments. And so governments owned it. It almost naturally rolled into policies, into strategies, into programs for them to be able to, benefit. Benefit from the huge youthful population on the continent. So countries like Uganda, Botswana, Tanzania, even Kenya, put in place strategies, for harnessing the demographic dividend. And the bottom line was that AFIDEP generated evidence that informed those policies. And the whole focus, the whole focus on generating evidence for policy and generating in a way that it affects policy is what I'm about. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, as you think about your life in the office at AFIDEP, what do you think, what is the legacy you're leaving there? What do you think that change that you've made as that legacy, that you'd like to be remembered for?
Right. Two things. One of them is, let me say, transforming the way research institutions think about their research. For that research to be of value. Because Africa is a place where we have so many problems. So you can't be doing research for the sake of research. You have to be doing research to solve societal problems.
Absolutely.
And for you to do that, you need to design that research in a different way. Design it clearly hand in hand with the governments who would use it to solve public problems. Now, my legacy is that driving that at AFIDEP has actually enabled AFIDEP to lead the way. And so a lot of research institutions, in fact, sometimes we've joked at AFIDEP that when you look at strategies coming out, being developed by research institutions across the region, they're sounding very much like AFIDEP strategy, evidence into policy, or evidence-informed policy making. So we've led the way in terms of transforming how researchers define their programs, raise funds, and work with governments to make their research useful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, you've come to a top position, a helm of, leadership. I want you to look into the camera and talk to a young girl that is looking to be a leader. What are those things that would help her to get there?
Right. So for young girls who are looking forward to becoming leaders, I would say a couple of things to them. And these are really words of encouragement and inspiration. One of them is have a vision of where you want to go. That even as a little girl, wherever you are, it may be in the city, it may be in the villages, it doesn't matter where you are. But have a clear vision of where you want to be when you are 20 years old, when you are 30 years old, when you are 50 years old. Mm-hmm. I had those visions as a child, and they gave me the impetus to work so hard and get to where I am. The second thing I would say is diligence. You know, get it done, but get it done so well. Don't just get it done to tick a box, but get it done in a way that even you look back and say, I did my very best. And it looks good, it's excellent. The third and final thing I would say to young girls is find God. Find Him much earlier than I did. I found Him much later and I regret. But find Him. Actually having God, for me when I was younger, it looked like a weakness. But finding God is a strength, is an advantage. Find Him, use the God factor, because you don't know everything. And if you have God on your side, you have all that you need to excel.
Thank you. Well, we'll be talking to Rose Oronje, the Deputy Executive Director for AFIDE. We are so honored that you've been with us today, and we've enjoyed the talk. And so, thank you so much.
Thank you too for having me.
To the viewers, I'd like to wish you a prosperous and productive 2026. And so until then, keep leading, keep watching, and God bless you.